Hey, what's up, everybody? Thanks for listening to the Whatcast. You know, we put out last week's episode without even mentioning that before Mike went on vacation, we said that we weren't going to have an episode that week. And then later we said that we were. And lo and behold, for the first time in like 5 years, our file was completely corrupted. And we didn't put out an episode when Mike was gone when we said we were. So sorry, guys. I felt bad about that.
I blame Obama. Thanks, Obama.
So you mentioned him a couple episodes and he had to put us right back in our place.
Yeah. That's what I mean, as an agent, I should have known that I'm never allowed to go off the clock. And I went off the clock. I went off the grid. You know, I brought it on myself, really. So I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry. And now he's trying to kill Mateo. Oh, my God.
It is.
This is off to a wonderful start.
Well, for this week, I had something weird to cover. And Mike had something weird to cover, and they had absolutely nothing to do with each other. So we're going to do another episode of Random Weirdness.
And he's still dying. Oh, my God.
How can you hear me cough when my mic's all the way down? That's how bad my mixer sucks.
Yeah, well, you know what? Obama wants me to hear him poisoning you. It's torturing me while he's doing it, and he knows what he's doing. That son of a bitch.
It's just my back, man.
I'll get you, Obama!
Well, the creature I'm going to talk about today is called the Shunka Workin. And I love this story because it has a few cool twists in it when I started doing further research into it. But before we get to it, I wanted to ask you, when we hear or read about cryptid sightings, it's usually just that, just a sighting. I mean, like 80% of people have a phone in their pocket and still don't have the wherewithal to bust it out and take photos in these instances. But does that mean we should take just sightings less serious? And I think that would be like a fool's mistake, especially in the time period where this story comes from. But with all jokes aside, Mike, do you think that there's a place on this earth that can hide an unknown or maybe unnatural creature?
Well, unknown, absolutely. I mean, we're still discovering new species. Like I literally just this morning, it was probably in the news a few days ago, but I just saw it this morning that a new crab was discovered that has never been seen before. So, you know, the ocean, we're finding shit all the fucking time.
Absolutely. I think that unknown animals are hidden all over the place. We'll never stop discovering them, I don't think. But I also think it could be for unnatural things. I think that there's spots in my very city that are remote and so infrequently visited by people that it could easily be the home to something unknown. Maybe people do venture out into these low traffic areas but never return. Who knows how many homeless folks have hiked out into the woods looking for some old cave, a ran down abandoned house, or maybe something like an old dilapidated railroad worker shed to find some private place to sleep, only to be pounced on by something that knows humans are the real apex predators. Like if we're going to take the story I'm going to tell today seriously or believe it at all, it's been around since the 1800s, this creature. So if something like that exists and it's this old, it's seen men clear out whole forests. It knows that where there's one, more are sure to follow. I think that a creature like that would know and understand that a human is a threat to its secrecy, its survival. And I don't think it would hesitate to dispatch anybody that it ran up on or happen to stumble on where it lives. Maybe the missing people in the parks aren't getting abducted or slipping to other dimensions. Maybe they're becoming cryptid kibble. Maybe that's what is happening to these people in these, again, super remote places. National parks have trails and stuff like that, but there's miles and miles in there that it's just woods. I think something unknown to humans could easily hide, even in a urban setting.
Well, I mean, do you remember when we were talking about the Lake Michigan Mothman and that lady was saying that she observed the different shape or the different types of beings that would be in this abandoned building across the street?
Yeah.
She had the gargoyle, the classic Mothman one, and I don't even remember a few different ones, but yeah, I mean, abandoned buildings are as good a place as any to hide out if you're a intelligent cryptid creature or alien.
Ooh, a wood alien?
Or ghost. Ooh, alien creature ghosts. Ooh.
Woodland alien creature ghosts. That's even scarier. They have survival skills.
Yeah, it is.
They can purify water with rocks and sand.
Yeah, they know what's up.
Well, the story I'm going to talk about comes from the Hutchins family, who had moved out to the Madison River Valley in Montana in the mid-1800s and founded the Hutchins Farm. It's still noted on maps of the area today. Now, the story goes that one morning, Grandpa Hutchins was awoken by the barks of the farm dogs. And their barks weren't to alert anybody of anything. It sounded like they were fighting something and trying to scare something off. So he got up and went outside, only to see a creature he described as a beast attacking the farm's geese. He said it was almost completely black in color. It had high shoulders like a hyena. And I actually have a quote from one of the Hutchins, Mike, if you're up to reading it.
Yeah, I will read a quote. One winter morning, my grandfather was aroused by the barking of dogs. He discovered that a wolf-like beast of dark color was chasing my grandmother's geese. He fired his gun at the animal but missed. It ran off down the river, but several mornings later it was seen again at about dawn. It was seen several more times at the home ranch as well as at other ranches 10 or 15 miles down the valley. Whatever it was a great traveler. Those who got a good look at the beast described it as being nearly black and having high shoulders and a back that sloped downward like a hyena. Then one morning in late January, my grandfather was alerted by the dogs, and this time he was able to kill it. Just what the animal was is still an open question. After being killed, it was donated to a man named Sherwood, who kept a combination grocery and museum at Henry Lake in Idaho. It was mounted and displayed there for many years. He called it Ringdocus.
Ringdocus.
What a weird name, Ringdocus.
Yeah. So right off the bat, I find interesting that this person's claiming that there were multiple witnesses, other farms that saw this creature.
Yeah, for 10 to 15 mile stretch even.
Yeah. Interestingly, one of the youngest Hutchins actually had a PhD in zoology, and even he couldn't identify the creature. He figured that it might be some type of hyena. He wasn't familiar with hyenas, not seeing them where he lives. And he assumed that it had escaped from some type of circus or zoo. But after looking into it, the closest circus was 500 miles away.
Is it possible that something could have escaped in transit, though?
Very true. We talked about that with, God damn it, the Enfield horror, right?
Was that the kangaroo one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cryptozoologist Lauren Coleman states that in 1995 he got to speak with a member of the Iowa tribe, Mr. Lance Foster. And he said he had firsthand experiences with the creature and that its name translates to carrying off dogs, as the creature would often sneak into camps and snatch dogs right from under their noses. He says that it sounds like a hyena, but when you hurt it or kill it, it cries like a human.
What if it is just a hyena? Like everyone is describing it like a hyena. It makes sounds like a hyena. It looks like a hyena. Why can't it just be a hyena? And then maybe when it hurt, like dogs yelp, so it sounds different than a bark. Maybe that's just the way that they sound. Like cats can mimic crying babies, kind of.
Kind of, and I think that the natives of the area, there were plenty of other tribes that had problems with these creatures. We all know that they harnessed dogs. They had dogs as pets and to work and guard and stuff like that. So I think they'd have been familiar with all sorts of whimpers of dogs, foxes, wolves, all that type of thing, bobcats, mountain lions, who knows? But Very true, but I don't think hyenas replicate people like a cat would a baby. I think they mean exactly what they're saying, that it cries like a person. I don't think it's yelping. I think it's something like that.
No fair.
I don't want to die. Okay, so that's kind of where the story ends, but an investigator actually uncovered the Hutchins story in the 1990s, in the mid-1990s. Similar reports of a creature were coming in from Alberta, Nebraska, Iowa, and Illinois. And during this investigation by a cryptozoologist named Mark A. Hall, He uncovered the Hutchins story and even found a photo of the taxidermied creature from the grocery store / museum. And I am going to send it to you. Ooh.
Please do.
Boom. Okay, so this is the one that was shot by the Hutchins and stuffed and put in the store. This is actually it. He obtained it from one of the Hutchins.
Okay. So that is definitely not a hyena.
Not at all. Not at all.
Those back legs look so weird.
Yeah, there's a lot off about that creature. And if we have somebody with a PhD in zoology, even if it's the late 1800s, and it's not a hyena, and he can't identify it, what the fuck does that mean? He's like a shitty zoologist, or...
I mean, that's definitely a possibility, but I don't know. That's it. To me, it looks like if a little kid were told to draw a coyote, and then someone took that drawing and made a real thing out of it.
I can kind of see what you're saying there.
Just, it's like the proportion, like you look at it and you're like, okay, that's definitely a dog of some sort, but you look at it and just like the proportions are off on everything.
Yeah, and it doesn't look falsely taxidermied like a Fiji mermaid or something like that. It looks
right.
It doesn't look iffy or goofy in any way. So this Mark A. Hall contributed these attacks that were happening in Alberta, Nebraska, Iowa, and Illinois as to being the Shunka Warkin. But that is not the end of this creature's story. In 2005, a similar creature was hunting livestock in the Macomb, Garfield, and Dawson counties. Again, a huge area is being covered. 3 different counties in 2005. By 2006, it had killed over 120 animals. It was such a big deal that the happenings were even reported in USA Today, the newspaper.
Really?
Yeah.
Damn.
So after, like, it's not just cows either. It's all sorts of livestock. So after that happened and farmers were mad enough about losing money, the wildlife services stepped in and they shot and killed a creature they believed to be responsible. At first, they assumed it was a wolf, but after examining the creature, it had multiple features that wolves do not have, including yellow, red, and orange fur.
Like these are variants seen, or like one individual has all those colors?
One animal, the one they shot and killed, had all those colors on it.
Wow.
Now, they couldn't identify this thing right off the bat either, but I have to ask you, this sighting, this creature, varies completely from the Hutchins monster. They said it was almost black. Now it has orange, red, and all sorts of different colored hair.
Or maybe that's just a different individual.
Maybe it's like a female.
Like if you look at a pack of wolves, you're going to see variations in color from, grays to browns to almost all black.
Right. Very, very true. Well, since this did take place in 2006, I bet you're asking yourself, why wasn't more investigation done?
I was asking myself that, Mateo. It's like you're a fucking psychic.
I am. Well, muscle tissue was sent to the University of California, Los Angeles, where its DNA would be compared to the DNA of a Northern Rockies gray wolf, and the body was sent to the National Fish and Wildlife Forensic Lab in Ashland, Oregon. Neither organization have revealed their findings or the test results.
Well, that's weird. Why wouldn't they release that information?
That is very weird. I mean...
Is it because it's an alien dog?
Maybe, or maybe it's actually this creature. Maybe they're like, oh God, they're still out there? Nobody's dogs are safe.
They want all our dogs. Is there anything stating how much this thing weighed at the time of death?
No, not that I can find. No, they don't. Although I have some more pictures for you, actually. Because in 2018, May 25th, again, a wolf-like animal resembling a Shunka Warkin was shot in central Montana. Officials say it may be a normal wolf, but there are many things, quote, off about this animal. Take a look at these. I mean, you'd be able to know, you know more about this than I do. More than I would. But to answer your question, these photos, the picture of it in the truck bed, it looks pretty fucking formidable.
So this one looks like it's probably some sort of wolf dog hybrid or even maybe a coyote wolf hybrid. I don't think there's anything really weird about this one. This just looks like, I mean, it's weird in that it's like unidentified exactly what it is, but it's clearly a dog of some sort. Like, look at the teeth, look at the paws, the snout. Like, it's very clearly a dog of some sort.
Right.
A very big dog.
Yeah, it's rather large. I was going to ask you about what your thoughts and opinions about it being some type of hybrid.
Yeah, it's probably, I would guess it's probably a wolf hybrid.
So what do you think about this case? I mean, to me, again, I'll go back to like the first few questions I asked myself about a case is if it belongs there. And according to Native Americans that live in the area, yes, it belongs there. They've dealt with it for a long time. And I found it interesting that we have a sighting, somebody shooting it, killing it, stuffing it, and then somebody actually putting it on display and it not look like the Fiji mermaid.
Yeah. Yeah, this one definitely doesn't look like it's that sort of situation, but I don't think it's anything paranormal or supernatural. I just think it's a weird hybrid. Like, it based on the stories, every one of them sounds like it's a completely different thing. And then, like, you compare this picture to the taxidermied one, and, like, that's a completely different thing.
Yeah, I think so, too. I think whatever was shot in the latest round of photos that I sent you, what year was it? Sorry. 2018. Yeah, 2018 photos. That's a different animal. I've seen quite a few pictures of wolves with mange and stuff looking into, I guess, the Americanized version of chupacabras. So I'm pretty familiar with that. It doesn't look skinny or malnourished at all. So,
no, that second one definitely has been eating well.
Yeah, definitely. It's a big old thing. But if it's not just a wolf, why don't they just say it's a wolf? I mean, why didn't we get a report back on this either?
It could just be the fact that it's like not worth their time. Like, you just look at it and you're like, well, it's clearly a fucking wolf.
I don't know. And what I read, they didn't say it was a wolf. They said it may be a normal wolf, but there are things off about the animal. And I guess if it's not presenting any danger to anybody, they're not going to really give a shit about it, right? They have better things to do.
Right. Like, unless someone was going to, foot the bill for DNA testing, it's not like that shit's fucking cheap.
Right. I wonder who is paying for the DNA testing and the carcass analyzation in the other case.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah. A normal person would look at that and be like, it's a fucking dog. It's some sort of dog. That's clearly what it is. And then, you can get DNA done on your dog like 23andMe for dogs. And, I mean, if you want to do that, they could have done it. And it probably would have come back with wolf.
What if somebody does that and, like, their dog has super diluted werewolf DNA? Like how they say, like...
Yeah, like it comes back with 25% human. And you're like, why? What is that?
Gross.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a werewolf.
That's terrifying.
What are you going to do? I mean, werewolf's got a werewolf, You can't take the dog out of a werewolf, Mateo.
Yeah, but that's it for the Shunka Warkin.
Well, I think it's multiple things, and many of them are dogs and hyenas. The weird little kid drawing come to life kind of creeps me out, and I don't know what the hell that thing is.
Right. I kind of believe in the Hutchins story more than I believe the newer sightings, even with like the Mark A. Hall, who uncovered the Hutchins story, and him attributing the Alberta, Nebraska, Iowa, and Illinois attacks to the Shunka Warkin. I think that's maybe a guy reaching a little bit, maybe trying to, I mean, I'm not bashing the guy at all, but I mean, I would love it to be this ancient hidden story that I found resurfacing and stuff like that. That's going to help me sell a few books. Do you think he was just kind of trying to keep the legend alive with these newer reports of regular wolf attacks?
Or maybe it's something like with Chupacabra and how that got kind of changed from the Puerto Rican version once it hit the mainland. And then it just, any dog with mange was suddenly a Chupacabra.
Right.
And clearly it's a fucking dog with mange. Like, simmer down, guys.
Mm-hmm. I every time I see one of those videos, even when they first started coming out, proof of a real chupacabra, and it's just some dog that's sick. I'm like, what do you You don't know anything about chupacabras if you think that's chupacabras.
Yeah. But, it all just gets lumped together, and it just all becomes, and now the original version of chupacabras, it's not even a thing anymore. Everyone always just attributes it to a weird fucking vampire fang dog thing. Like they don't think about the weird fins and the fucking jumping, gliding stuff that it does, and the reptilian aspect of it. And now it's just a bald coyote with vampire fangs.
You're very right. When's the last time you've even seen an image of the original chupacabras come up in any YouTube video or anything like that?
Right.
Now, you live in a more rural area than I do. Is a wolf, or maybe it's a couple wolves, is they seem to only shoot the one creature that was chopped up and sent away to the labs. Is a wolf attacking and killing over 120 animals rare? I mean, I figure...
I mean, where I live, we don't even have wolves in the area. Like, coyotes are an issue. Mostly if you have like chickens or small livestock, maybe pygmy goats, things like that. But coyotes are really the only thing around, and not that coyotes are all that big, but I've seen some that are almost the size of a German Shepherd, which is fucking gargantuan for a coyote. But some of them get pretty big.
I wouldn't think they got that big at all. That's terrifying.
Yeah. Well, also we've got these things called coy dogs, which are like if someone's dog goes stray and ends up mating with coyote, it's the hybrid between dogs and coyotes, and usually they roll with the coyotes. They're just fucking bigger.
Oh, wow.
So we've got those as well. But we don't have wolves. There was a bear that rolled through here, but most bears are a good 2 hours away in the Adirondacks. Very rarely do they come into my area, but it happens from time to time. But I've never seen a wolf in this area. Yeah.
I just wonder if that's like normal numbers for a lone wolf or even a couple wolves. I just figured like a farmer after the...
Yeah, that seems pretty excessive, especially if you're attributing it to a single animal.
Yeah, and I figure a farmer would sit in his front porch with a shotgun after the 15th, 16th animal he lost.
Or even like the second or third. Like, this thing keeps coming back. What the fuck?
Yeah, that's money for this guy. He's losing out on his livelihood there.
Right.
That's serious business. I forget what the hell I was doing, but I was reading up on Linda Moulton Howell's start into the whole ufology and cattle mutilation thing. And those people were in a panic. Those people were complaining. They were just losing thousands of dollars. They didn't give a shit if it was aliens. They didn't want this shit to stop.
Yeah, it's like the cattle mutilation things where they're just, we don't know what it is, but fuck, we don't want it anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Just a level of frustration to where it's probably there. They call the police. They call the governor. They call the mayor.
Yeah, what are you gonna do?
Yeah. What do you say? Something's ripping apart my cattle on a constant basis.
Yeah. And then what? Get a better security system? I don't fucking know, man.
Yeah.
Well, that's life in cryptozoology, though, I guess.
I guess so.
Lots of stories, very little evidence. So I got a story that's completely unrelated and is more in line with alien abduction than cryptids.
Yeah.
But it also kind of ties back. Do you remember the aliens we talked about in Varginha, Brazil?
Mm-hmm. The ones with
the red eyes
and the rose on their head, like the mohawk type shape bumps on their heads.
Yeah, and they had the red eyes, and they were smaller. I've got a story that could be those same things, but this one's from Argentina in 2006, and it's the report from a now decommissioned officer named Sergio Puchetta, and he had a case of missing time. But it's kind of weird the way that the story went. I tried to get as good of information as I could. All of the articles on this are all written in Spanish. For those that are interested, I can link the original articles and maybe you'll be able to get more out of it than I was if you're able to speak Spanish. But so between the three articles, there were some slight discrepancies. I'm gonna say that up front. But also, I want to point out that these articles are spaced apart. So it was first reported March 2006, shortly after the event transpired. A follow-up article was written February 2008, and then in July of 2022, another article was written revisiting it. The discrepancies that were in between the three, two of the articles, the two earlier ones, report Puchetta as being 28 years old, whereas the newer one stated he was 31 years old at the time. The other difference is in the distance away from his original site he was found later on. In one article, it says 20 kilometers, and another one it says 30. So, just slight, but I want to point that out because sometimes discrepancies are indicators that maybe the story isn't real. But in these instances, the story itself it's the same. It's just these details that are different. But Puchetta started his shift like he normally would, but his routine ended up changing when one of the other officers asked him to cover part of his area, his patrol area, so he could take part of the day off. So Puchetta started his patrol at 7:30 p.m. The jurisdiction that he covered was 80 kilometers. So I forgot to mention, Puchetta was also, he's a motorcycle cop. So he wasn't in his car, he was on a motorcycle. So he's driving around, and he reaches a place called El Cruce de las Cañas. And once he was there, he observed what he described as a strange glow coming from the woods. And initially he thought that these might be poachers that were illegally hunting. So he stopped his motorcycle, took his helmet off, and got off the motorcycle. He started to walk towards where he saw the glow. But he said as he was walking, he couldn't see or hear anything, out of the normal in the area. So he was just walking around for a few minutes, and he got to the point where he didn't see or hear anything. So he decided to head back to the motorcycle and continue on about his patrol. But just as he was thinking of going back, he saw two strange red lights, and they just suddenly appeared, and they paralyzed him. And he said that the lights were about 50 meters away from where he was standing, but they came out of nowhere, and as soon as he saw them, he was paralyzed, so he didn't have time to even react to it. He was able to move his hands, though, but he couldn't, move them away from his body or anything. He couldn't move his arms. He could just move his hands themselves. But he said he had this strange tingling sensation that was coursing through his body. Within a few seconds of this taking place, he said that he felt his body moving, and it turned off his radio, removed his pistol from the holster, and dropped his cell phone, and left them all on the ground. Somehow, before he was able to... and he has no memory of this, but apparently in the time where he was paralyzed, between the time when he was first paralyzed and when he unloaded all of his equipment, he made one last phone call to the officer that he was replacing. And all that he said was, "Come to Las Cañas. You know what is happening." And then he hung up.
What?
Yeah.
What the hell does that mean?
That's all he said. And then he disconnected the phone. And this prompted the officer, whose name was Marcelo Villegas. It caused him to then call the emergency phone number in Argentina, which is 101. And within 10 minutes, there were officers on the scene looking for him. So they went looking for him and they couldn't find him, but they did find his abandoned motorcycle. And about 800 meters away from his motorcycle, they found the radio turned off, and they found the pistol, they found his phone and all his equipment. Everything was there. His helmet was there. He was the only thing that was missing. It just seemed like all his stuff was there, and then they disappeared. So they set up a perimeter to investigate the area, see if they could find any signs of foul play or whatever. And all available police units were brought in to start searching for this missing officer. And they even had officers on foot who were walking across the area. They actually were able to find his footprints, and they found footprints going down the road until they lost them. It looked like he went into the grass and they lost him. But the weird thing is, the distance between the footprints started to increase the further they went down. Started out regular space between footprints, then 1 meter between footprints, then 2 meters. And before they disappeared, the footprints were 7 meters apart.
Whoa. What the hell?
And again, these were his footprints. They weren't large footprints. These were human footprints, but spaced out like that. And later in his testimony, Puchetta did say that he felt something grabbed him and he felt an upward lift sort of feeling at some point during his encounter. All said, they were looking for him for 18 hours and nobody could find any trace of him. They even called in the entire police force. The chief even got involved. They were all searching for this guy at 2 a.m. So again, he started at 7:30. We're now at 2 a.m. It started to rain and a storm hit the area, which completely wiped out the footprints. And it didn't end until the next day. At 4 p.m. the next day, which it started on a Thursday. This is now Friday. So 4 p.m. on Friday, Puchetta was found, depending on which article you read, between 20 and 30 kilometers from where all his equipment was left. And a farm owner named Luis Alberto Barbero found him sitting in a ditch by the dirt road, dressed in the uniform he was wearing. And he was sitting there with his face hidden between his arms. And so Barbero walks up to him and tries to talk to him, but Puchetta wouldn't respond, and he didn't even react. So Barbero called the emergency number, and because there was a missing officer, all the other units ended up rolling up along with an ambulance and found that this was the missing officer. When Puchetta finally came through, he said that there was something that was repeating over and over in his head, like a message saying, "If you stay here, we'll come back for you." And that's all that he could recall for a while. But eventually he started to regain his composure, and it took him a while, but he was able to stand on his own. And once he realized what happened, he actually went and hugged his superior officer and started breaking down in uncontrollable sobs.
Oh.
He had trouble remembering what had happened. It was like he understood the trauma of whatever he endured, but he didn't know what it was.
That's rough.
They ended up bringing him back to a hospital to be looked over, and when they brought him back, his feet had burns all over him with blisters, and there were small dots in between the blisters, and none of this, it took quite a long time for these burns and blisters to go away. Puchetta also displayed some photophobia and asked to be brought to a dark room because the light would cause intense pain, and the photosensitivity lasted for a while after he came back. But they ended up doing an investigation on this, the police force did, and Puchetta was ultimately discharged from service. He was retired in 2013. They officially retired him because he wasn't able to work due to the trauma he endured during the experience. But he briefly described what he encountered that night. And he said that there were beings with red eyes, small beings with red eyes, that, from what he could remember, psychically controlled him. And he says that he remembers seeing the field that he disappeared from, but he remembers seeing it from above. And he felt like he was the passenger, but he couldn't remember what he was the passenger of. He just remembers seeing the field from above. He said as he remembers looking out and seeing everything illuminate as whatever he was in passed by. And he remembers feeling an intense heat when he put his feet down on the ground. But from that point on, he said he never wants to go through the same thing again. And to this day, he still avoids Las Cañas. He said that he is afraid of the place now because he feels like whatever was here, because they left that message, if you stay here, we'll come back, that if he goes back there, they'll find him and take him again. But after this happened, and after he had he's still missing a lot of the time, so he doesn't really know exactly what happened. But based on what he does remember and what he was told after he was found and what happened in the hospital, and then compare that to other cases that have happened around the world, he feels like whatever happened to him was probably related to genetic studies, and he feels like he had some blood extracted from him. And when he was in the hospital, they did find puncture marks in his arms and legs, but he doesn't know for sure if this was used for drawn blood or what happened, because during that 18 hours, he has very little recall.
Yikes. That's rough, dude. I mean,
yeah. Well, by all accounts, before this had happened, he was a very reputable officer. Like, he wasn't known to make up bullshit. But then again, whenever these cases come up, the witness is always described as being, trustworthy and not prone to flights of fancy and all that stuff.
No, I mean, clearly something happened. He actually had a team of police officers looking for him for hours.
Right.
He's got marks on his body. It mentally disturbed him to the point to where they released him from his duties. What do you make of when we hear these stories like this? Like, this is a rough one. I feel bad for the guy.
Yeah, and that ended his career.
Yeah. What do you make of these cases to where when they find them, they're coming to, like they've been put under anesthesia?
Yeah, that is what it seems like, right? Because they're always all like dazed, no idea what's going on, and then slowly they just come back too.
Yeah, it's insane.
Yeah. Yeah, wasn't that the case with Travis Walton too when he came back?
Yeah, it took him a minute to get his bearings and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Then he would slip into like this catatonic panic state even afterwards for a while. Yeah, I've said it before, I'll say it again. After talking to Michelle about her abduction story and hearing cases like this, it's always been scary. I mean, I remember when Fire in the Sky came out, that was fucking terrifying to watch, but I don't know, maybe it's just as an adult now, it's weird to think about. There's a large number of people who claim to be kidnapped by things that aren't human and just tortured. Literally tortured. What do they get out of that?
Yeah, that doesn't make much sense.
Not at all. And if you try to make sense with it, it kind of goes into them harvesting energies and down the spiritual realm. Maybe they feed off the anguish. They were talking about shit like that in the Montauk Project.
Yeah, like negative energy is like the sweet nectar.
Yeah, it's the good stuff.
Yeah, like somehow that has more psychic energy for some reason than positive emotions.
The truth is, it's the opposite of Monsters, Inc. It is the crying that gives them more.
Right, yeah. Yeah.
Well, what a weird world we live in. I'm glad it's weird. I wonder if there's ever a point in human history where people weren't reporting shit like this.
Well, I think depending on the belief systems of the time, it could have been attributed to religious figures or mythological figures or magic or just straight up fucking monsters.
My vote's for monsters. I mean, like, it would be sad if man just eradicated tons of species of monsters, but I would love to see that underground hidden government museum of all the species of mythological creatures that have been slaughtered.
It's just called Monsters Up Your Ass.
Thank you for listening to the Whatcast. You can find us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, iTunes, and YouTube. Enjoy the podcast. Get yourself a Whatcast t-shirt or a sticker pack. Who was that dude on that one episode? Try the links in Homie's page. All this and more can be found at www.thewhatcasters.com. Thanks again for listening and have a great week.